Trump's brilliant idea. Let's solve the Ukraine war without Europe, because who needs them? Well, Donald Trump's envoy, Kellogg, has once again managed to do what Trump's team does best: alienate everyone and make diplomacy look like a high school clique. At the Munich Security Conference, Kellogg, who at 80 years old seems to have all the charm of a gym teacher giving detention, declared that Europe can join the Ukraine-Russia debate. But don't get too excited, they won't actually have a say in the final decision. Nice. Get into the debate, Kellogg scolded them. Not by whining about not being invited to the cool kids' table, but by, actually contributing something like defense spending. Because obviously the best way to handle a war that's tearing Ukraine apart is to lecture them like they're toddlers. Meanwhile, European leaders who actually share a continent with the war zone were understandably livid. French President Emmanuel Macron, probably wondering how the U.S. went from leader of the free world to bad reality show, called for an emergency summit in Paris. Poland's Donald Tusk chimed in with, "No time to lose," clearly aware that leaving Ukraine's fate in the hands of Trump and Putin is like letting toddlers play with matches. Tusk didn't mince words. Europe needs its own plan for Ukraine, or else, surprise, surprise, the world's worst dinner guests, looking at you, Moscow, will decide their future for them. But don't worry, Trump's top diplomat, Marco Rubio, yes, the same Rubio who once called Trump a con artist before becoming his biggest cheerleader, reassured everyone that the Donald is super serious about ending the war. Of course, he told this to Russia's Sergei Lavrov first, because when it comes to prioritizing calls, Trump always seems to have Moscow on speed dial. And because why not add more chaos, Rubio and the gang are off to Saudi Arabia next. What could possibly go wrong? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, meanwhile, wasn't buying any of it. Speaking at the same conference, he practically begged Trump not to cut deals with Putin behind our backs. Zelenskyy even suggested forming a European armed force, because let's face it, counting on Trump's America is about as reliable as counting on Wi-Fi in a basement. Decisions about Europe should be made in Europe, Zelenskyy insisted, clearly exhausted from explaining basic logic to people who still think cozying up to Putin is a solid plan. Trump, in his usual fashion, promised Zelenskyy that Ukraine would have a seat at the table. But given that Trump once tried to blackmail Zelenskyy for political dirt, forgive Ukraine for not exactly trusting him with their future. So here we are, Europe scrambling to clean up the mess, Ukraine fighting for survival, and Trump playing peace broker like a used car salesman promising best deal ever. Spoiler alert, it won't be. Enough is enough. Call your senators, call your congressmen, hell, call anyone who will listen. Just Google the Senate switchboard and make your voice heard. Ukraine needs support, not half-baked deals cooked up by wannabe dictators and their enablers.